Good morning. Welcome to the Zoom service of UUCC, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Canandaigua. UUCC is a congregation that fosters personal and spiritual growth through religious exploration in search of the truth while celebrating diversity and affirming the worth and dignity of every person. We are glad that you're joining us. My name is Michelle Chapla, one of the co-chairs of Team 6, and we are excited to kick off our congregation's participation in UUSC's Guest at Your Table program and introduce you to this year's guests. UUCC has participated in Guest at Your Table for many years to support the work of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, a nonprofit, non-sectarian organization advancing human rights together with an international community of grassroots partners and advocates. Thank you all for being here. Some announcements. Next Sunday, February 20th, we will plan to worship together inside the church with Reverend Eileen leading, yay, but also to live stream to YouTube and gather on Zoom for any and all who are unable to join us in person. Please RSVP online using the link emailed from the church account if you would like to attend in person. We ask that anyone attending in person be as fully vaccinated as they're eligible to be, including boosters, wear a well-fitted surgical or KN95 mask, and sit in pods of the people that you come with. Also, there will be a limited number of N95 masks available if you would like. Now we enter a space of worship.
Please join us in the chalice lighting words. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning in celebration of the life we share together.
Every year, during the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee's Guest at Your Table program, we have the chance to learn about 4 people connected to the UUSC partner organizations, the guests in Guest at Your Table. The program is a chance to learn about critical human rights issues around the world through stories of people who are deeply connected to the issues and the communities they impact. You can think of the program as offering stories from the grassroots gathered for Unitarian Universalist congregations to tie us more closely together with issues on the ground and innovative change makers around the world. It's also a way to learn about the grassroots organizations we're helping through our support of UUSC. We will now share a video from UU Service Committee, introducing this year's theme for Guest at Your Table.
These last months have highlighted the need for urgent, deep, and lasting systemic change. At UUSC, we believe that the transformational solutions we need, solutions that fundamentally shift us toward a world that prioritizes human rights, thriving communities, and a healthy planet, that these solutions come from grassroots leaders and communities most impacted by injustice. This belief is at the heart of UUSC's work. It fuels our partnership model in which we strive to listen deeply, follow the lead, collaborate with, and resource community organizations on the front lines of advancing change. I'd like to invite you to be part of advancing that change by getting to know some of these partners and joining us for this year's Guest at Your Table, UUSC's longtime annual program and our most significant source of financial support from congregations. Recognizing the enormity of today's human rights challenges and the importance of continuing the momentum for social change, our Guest at Your Table theme for this fall through spring 2022 is Now is the Time for Courageous Change. Through the stories our featured guests will share, with worship resources, religious education materials, and more, I invite you and your congregation to learn about our partners' priorities and visions for the future. With the goal of supporting this work, joining these partners in solidarity, and together with UUSC, making strides toward a world transformed by justice. Because it's plain that now is the time for transformational, comprehensive, justice-seeking, grassroots-led, courageous change. I hope you will join us.
Please join us in our opening hymn, number 134, Our World is One World.
Our world is one world. What touches one affects us all. The seas that wash us round about, the clouds that cover us, the rains that fall. Our world is one world. The thoughts we think affect us all. The way we build our attitudes with love or hate we make a bridge or wall. Our world is one world. Its ways of wealth affect us all. The way we spend, the way we share, who are the rich or poor, who stand or fall. Our world is one world, just like a ship that bears us all, where fear and greed make many holes, but where our hearts can hear a different call.
Now we're going to share another video from UUSC introducing this year's guests, and I think you're going to enjoy them. Axel, Myra, Kiowa Island, a Fiji island, and Christian.
In today's story, I want to introduce you to 4 people who live in different parts of the world, but are all working with UUSC to help their communities have more justice and more resilience. Justice is another word for making things fair, and resilience means having the ability to heal after bad or hard things happen. Even though we don't have a chance to meet them in person, I want you to imagine they're coming over for dinner with you and your family. Think of them as a dinner guest, telling you an interesting story over a big plate of your favorite food. All over the country, other kids like you are imagining the same dinner party and learning about the same people as part of a program called Guest at Your Table. The program is a chance to learn about 4 courageous people making a difference in their communities. This year, the 4 people we're going to meet are Axel, Myra, Maina, and Christian. First, I want to introduce you to Axel, who lives in Missouri. Axel works with the people who work in the food processing factories in the Midwestern United States. Many of the food service workers Axel works with are immigrants and refugees. Without them, we wouldn't have a lot of the food we find in our grocery stores. They feed our whole country. But even though they have this very important job, food service workers are often treated badly by the people that own the factories. They don't make much money, they're forced to work for a long time without breaks, and they had to work all through the COVID pandemic without many of the simple items that would have helped them be safer from the virus. To fight back against these unfair conditions, Axel is helping to organize people who work in these food processing factories so they can work together to get better working conditions for themselves and their communities. Next, I want to tell you about Myra, an activist who lives in the United States now, but she's originally from a country called Burma. Burma is also sometimes called Myanmar. When Myra was a little girl, her village was attacked by the country's military, and she was forced to flee her house along with her family. They weren't able to bring anything with them when they ran, and they all had to travel through the forest for many days before they reached the country next door. Eventually, Myra was able to move to the United States. Now that she is safe, Myra speaks out on behalf of the many people still in Burma who are facing the same military violence that Myra went through as a little girl. What Myra and her family went through was very scary, and making sure this kind of violence stops is very important to her. Myra is using her voice to call attention to what is happening to the people of Burma now. The third person I want to introduce you to is Maina Talia. Maina lives in Kiowa Island, which is part of the nation of Fiji in the South Pacific. Many countries in this part of the world are facing the impacts of climate change now. They are losing land to the ocean as sea levels rise. Kiowa Island has a higher elevation than many of its neighbors. This means that Kiowa Island will be a safer place to live as sea levels continue to rise. In order to prepare for welcoming new people to Kiowa Island, Maina and the members of the Kiowa Island Community Organization are working together to create community resilience by making plans and planting trees that will help the island withstand the forces of climate change. Lastly, I want to introduce you to Christian, who's from Nicaragua. In Nicaragua, many farmers have a hard time making a living because giant agricultural companies own the land, the farming equipment, and even the seeds. Christian and the other women in their farming cooperative are doing things a little bit differently. They care for their own land. They use traditional farming practices that do not harm the soil, and they plant a variety of different kinds of seeds that have been used by their communities for generations. This way of farming helps the land heal and helps women gain financial and social independence. Christiane is helping her community build resilience from both climate change and violence against women with their feminist farming cooperative. I hope these stories were a chance to learn about the challenges this year's 4 guests are facing and how they are fighting for what is fair and for what is right, while also helping their communities become more resilient. Through Guest at Your Table, your congregation and other congregations around the country are helping provide the guests with the resources to do their work. Together, we can make a better and fairer world. Thank you.
So you can find more information about each of the guests and links to video clips of them explaining their work in the link shared now in the chat and later in the video description on YouTube.
We are a community that holds one another in our celebrations and in our pain. Please share your joys and or sorrows in the chat box on Zoom, and know that whatever is on your heart, we are with you. For the joys and sorrows shared and those held in our hearts, know that we are with you. I especially want to recall things shared today. Remembering the passing of a congregant, individuals suffering health issues, face plants in dealing with the slipping on ice, new friends visiting, celebrating birthdays, celebrating time with family and friends. All these and the biggest things in your heart, know that we are with you.
Now is the time in our service to join together in the spiritual practice of generosity. Our gifts support our church in its work. If you would like to give to this morning's offering, you can give online at canandaiguauu.org/connect/donate, or physically by mailing a check to the church. In either case, note if you'd like your gift to go toward the Sunday offering or your pledge. We'll share 25% of our monthly Sunday offerings with our service partner chosen by Team 6 for the frozen season, Metro Justice, an organization that seeks a better, more just world free of economic, racial, and social injustice.
Now it is the time for us to come together for centering and shared silence. Please get comfortable wherever you are at home and join us in this time. I'm going to begin with a reading by Marge Percy called Connections. Connections are made slowly. Sometimes they grow underground. You cannot always tell by looking at what is happening. More than half a tree is spread out in the soil under your feet. Penetrate quietly as the earthworm that blows no trumpet. Fight persistently as the creeper that brings down the tree. Spread like the squash plant that overruns the garden. Gnaw in the dark and use the sun to make sugar. Weave real connections, create real nodes, build real houses. Live a life you can endure. Make life that is loving. Keep tangling and interweaving and taking more in. A thicket and bramble, wilderness to the outside, but to us it is interconnected with rabbit runs and burrows and lairs. This is how we are going to live for a long time. Always. For every gardener knows that after the digging, after the planting, after the long season of tending and growth, the harvest comes. Please join us now in silent meditation.
Now we will share the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee's Guest at Your Table sermon for the 2021 to 2022 congregational year, entitled Power, Partnership, and Change, presented by Reverend Mary Catherine Mourn, President and CEO of UUSC.
Perhaps you have heard or read the parable of the starfish thrower before. The tale comes from Lauren Isley, mid-20th century scientist and philosopher, who recounts meeting a person on a beach after a storm which has washed thousands of starfish onto the shore. This person seeks out the living starfish and flings them back into the sea, where they may survive. After contemplating the seeming futility of such an endeavor in the face of a problem so large, Isley recognizes the hope and defiance in taking such action. Isley finishes his tale by writing, "I looked back across my shoulder to see the star thrower stoop and fling once more. And then I never looked again. The task we had assumed was too immense for gazing. All about us roared the insatiable waters of death, but we, alone and small in that immensity, hurled back the living stars." I recently visited a natural treasure about an hour outside of Boston, Purgatory Chasm State Park. The park is on land cherished and traditionally protected by Nipmuc peoples, a tribe of now 600 living in Massachusetts. The half-mile-long chasm is a treacherous hike. A slow pace is needed to navigate the incredible scale and danger of the chasm, the stones, large and small, that jut beneath and loom above the hikers. Stone is often considered a symbol of patience and the slow and steady pace of change. Boulders worn by elements and gigantic canyons carved out by tiny streams. I am reassured by the long view perspective of time that is revealed in stone. The stones at Purgatory Chasm, though, offer a different meaning. This immense breach in the earth was created in an instant, a moment of immediate, dramatic, disruptive, violent change. Scientists now believe the chasm was formed by the sudden release of glacial meltwater 14,000 years ago. Change sometimes happens like that. Stone is sometimes shaped by sheer and urgent power in an instant. Right now, these days, that image of change is more resonant than the slow, steady force of a small stream carving a canyon, though both hold important truths. In his reflection on saving the starfish along the ocean shore, Lauren Isley writes, "All about us roared the insatiable waters of death." For me, this line brings to mind the creatures and plants and habitat lost in that dramatic moment of change 14,000 years ago at Purgatory Chasm. Water roaring from above, melted who knows how much earlier and working for who knows how long to find its escape, but forming the landscape in an instant. All about us roar the insatiable waters of death. Isley saw this from the perspective of the starfish's life and his own. We can see it in the indifference of a virus and the intimate violence of racism. We're at a rare time in history when so much is revealed by the rapid change and disruption of this moment. What's revealed isn't anything new. What's revealed is what too many of us manage not to see. Even as we've understood, as Dr. King reminded us, that what affects one affects all, Many of us turn away. I believe not always because we don't care, but largely because we underestimate our power. And then often, those of us with various forms of privilege, we get comfortable, and our gaze remains fixed on those truths that soothe us. The shaking of so many foundations around us has forced us to see so vividly much more than many ordinarily see. Horrific inequity, systems designed precisely to maintain the castes among us, the complicity of silence, and the seductive comfort of our perceived powerlessness. The seductive comfort of our perceived powerlessness. These times are urgently calling on us to remember and use our power. That's right, power. Did you know UUSC's mission includes an affirmation of the inherent power and dignity of all people? For Unitarian Universalists, so accustomed to repeating the beautiful words of our first principles, it's easy to read right over that small but significant difference. It's not denying inherent worth, that's implied, but the addition of power is significant. At UUSC, we affirm the inherent dignity and power of all people. The power of compassion that demands our hands and minds and hearts be engaged in fulfilling the promise of human dignity and worth. The power of faithful imagination, the refusal to give in to the cynicism and powerlessness that tyrants and empires depend upon to thrive. These times are urgently calling on us to remember and use our power. Can you see it? Your power, can you feel it? Sit up a little straighter, take a breath. Can you feel your power? Not always, right? I know that's true for me, especially these days. These days, I'm feeling pretty small, less able than ever to accomplish anything. The roar gets inside me and I feel alone. I feel so much fear and grief and powerlessness. Okay, shake that off. I'm not going to ask you to deny those feelings, but I really hope we can all come to see something more. We've come here today because we know that religious community will hold us when we feel small and alone. Community will call us back to the power that we each carry, that we recognize in each other, that is called out from us in community. We show up, we are here together today because we believe that ministry, our shared ministry, will comfort us and confront us, will call us to our power. I invite you to call the name of someone who has reminded you of your dignity, your worth, and your power. And now call to mind memories of the power that has arisen from communities you are a part of, from this congregation. Prophetic witness in the larger community, calls for justice and healing, actions that were part of movements that brought about actual change. Friends, you have what you need to create a better world. We have what we need to enact courageous change. I'm inspired when I see this in communities and congregations. I am also deeply inspired every day by the fierce power of the grassroots partners who are the heart of UUSC's mission. We believe and know from experience that partnering with communities most deeply impacted by injustice is the most faithful and the most effective way to contribute to a better world. This is what UUSC's Guest at Your Table program has been highlighting for decades, offering us the chance to learn more deeply the stories of 4 of our grassroots partners. These guests invite us each year into more profound solidarity with them and the communities they serve. Our partner, Axel Fuentes from the Rural Community Workers Alliance, or RCWA, is organizing food processing factory workers in the Midwestern United States, building coalitions through organizers that speak the language and know the culture of the workers they collaborate with. Together, they are tapping into their power to demand safer working conditions that honor everyone's dignity. Axel says, UUSC's support has been one of the most important pieces for RWCA to be able to survive and make progress as a grassroots organization in the fight for the rights of all people. Myra Doggipa is a member of the Karen ethnic minority and director of the US campaign for Burma. She's drawing on her experience as someone targeted by the Burmese military junta as a child to bring attention to the crisis happening in Burma today. She advocates for Burmese ethnic minorities and pro-democracy demonstrators with a vision for a peaceful country that has achieved a true democratic state where the power lies with the people, not with the military, and a country that finally realizes that inclusivity makes us stronger. Our partner, Maina Talia, from Kio Island Community Organization in the South Pacific, is working to make the communities of Kio Island resilient to the forces of climate change for the sake of future generations, and to serve as a refuge for those living on neighboring islands with even lower elevations. The island must provide agricultural support, moral support, and have climate-proof structures to ensure the continuity of our people, Maina says. Our vision is to build community resilience. UUSC is especially honored to be working with the Kio Community Organization as their first funder. Our last guest this year, Guzman Merlot, is the co-director of UUSC partner Fundación Entre Mujeres, or FEM, organized by and for rural peasant women in Nicaragua. FEM is both a feminist farming collective and an advocacy network, linking 21 communities to bolster the economic, political, and social empowerment of women. The intersectional approach of FEM, seeing the connections between healing the land and healing the wounds of violence against women, offers a profound and necessary model of justice for the world. Christian shares that what FEM wants is a collective transformation in the communities of this country and all over the world. I am so grateful for what I learn every day about fierce power from UUSC's grassroots partners, such as Axel, Myra, Maina, and Christian. People who experience the intimate violence of oppression every day and still know their dignity and power. People who lead the way in enacting courageous change. These times are urgently calling us to remember and use our power. Friends, we have what we need to contribute to creating a better world. I want to thank those of you who are connected with the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee through our shared work for justice and with your financial support. UUSC is a member-supported organization that receives no funding from the UUA. We cannot do this work without you. I hope that today's service inspires every one of you to become part of UUSC's justice-loving, justice-seeking community. In closing, I'd like to invite the voices of some of my UUSC colleagues to share a little more about the work we are doing in collaboration with you, our UUSC supporters, and our grassroots partners around the world. Thank you for inviting a guest to your table and supporting this important work.
UUSC is an international human rights organization. We're grounded in the principles of Unitarian Universalism and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. At UUSC, we seek to advance human rights dismantle systems of oppression, and uphold the inherent dignity and worth of every human being.
Founded in 1940, UUSC addresses the needs of people who've been ignored or overlooked, working in places where the larger aid agencies often do not.
We are committed to building upon a legacy that is rooted in locally led initiatives, working hand in hand, eye to eye, and heart to heart with community leaders and grassroots organizations in the United States and around the world.
Today, UUSC has over 30,000 members, partnering with more than 40 grassroots organizations. Our programs span across 20 countries in Asia, the South Pacific, Central America, and the United States.
We do our work in 3 ways: through advocacy and action with UU congregations, UUSC members, and our incredible volunteers, through education and experiences with the UU College of Social Justice, and through grant-making, convenings, and collaborative research.
With our partners, we address human rights issues including disaster justice, emergency relief in the face of natural or human-made crises, climate action, working with communities who are losing their homes due to climate change, and criminalization, partnering with communities who are targeted simply for their activism or being who they are, immigrants, LGBTQ people, and ethnic and religious minorities.
And this past year, we have been working with our grassroots partners to meet the unique human rights challenges presented by the COVID-19 crisis.
We know that UUSC members expect us to always be learning and be bold in our programming and our commitment to human rights.
We want you to have confidence in our work. UUSC is a terrific investment for your philanthropic support. Our budget goes far to accomplish so much for human rights in the U.S. and around the world.
And for 10 years running, UUSC has earned 4 stars, the highest possible rating from Charity Navigator, because of our effectiveness and fiscal transparency.
It is an exciting time at UUSC. We are grateful to you and to all of our members for your partnership and for putting your faith in us. You make our work possible. Thank you.
Thank you, UUSC supporters.
Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you so much for your support.
And thank you for putting your faith in us.
For all that you do to advance human rights.
We really appreciate it.
We couldn't do the work we do around the world without you.
Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle?
Hi, Dorothy. Dorothy is now going to talk to us a bit about New York Dignity, Not Detention Act.
Thanks, Michelle. So there is currently a legislative effort in New York State, both in the New York State Assembly and in the New York State Senate. I will poke in the chat box the pertinent information here about the Assembly bill and the Senate bill. There's a link in the chat to a letter writing campaign. So if you're interested in following up on what I say, you have an ability to take direct action today. What we're trying to accomplish is to stop the practice of local community jails and county jails detaining people on behalf of ICE, on behalf of the immigration control people. What happens typically is ICE enters into a contract with a local jail or a county jail so that they will allot some of their space to hold immigrants. Now, you need to know that being in violation of immigration law is not a felony. And oftentimes the people who are detained are picked up for simple traffic violations. However, they can be held in detention indefinitely, and they can be moved to any ICE facility anywhere in the country. Right now, there are 7 jails that are actively holding people in New York State for ICE. We also have the Batavia Federal Detention Facility, which is a federal facility. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the practice of picking up people locally and then holding them indefinitely on behalf of the immigration authorities in local jails. So what the Dignity Not Detention Act requires is decoupling ICE from these community jails and making it against the law in New York to have such contracts for detention to hold immigrants in New York State. This does not stop ICE from picking up dangerous criminals who may have warrants out for their arrest and putting them into federal detention. It only stops the detention of low-risk people with no representation, no legal representation in the United States, who get picked up and held indefinitely in local facilities. So if you're interested in following up on this, please go and read the acts on the New York State Legislature website and join in the letter writing campaign. Thank you.
No place in this world where I'll belong when I'm gone. And I won't know the right from the wrong when I'm gone. And you won't find me singing on this song when I'm gone. So I guess I'll have to do it while I'm here. And I won't breathe the brandy air when I'm gone. And I can't even worry about my cares when I'm gone. Won't be asked to do my share when I'm gone. So I guess I'll have to do it while I'm here. Won't see the golden of the sun when I'm gone. And the evenings and the mornings will be one when I'm gone. Can't be singing louder than the guns when I'm gone. So I guess I'll have to do it while I'm here. And all my days won't be dances of delight, and the sands will be shifting all away from my side. Can't add my name into the fight. So I guess I'll have to do it while I'm here. I won't be laughing at the lies when I'm gone. And I can't question how or when or why when I'm gone. Can't live proud enough to die when I'm gone. So I guess I'll have to do it while I'm here. There's no place in this world where I'll belong when I'm gone. And I won't know the right. Singing on this song when I'm gone. So I guess I'll have to do it. I guess I'll have to do it. Then I guess I'll have to do it while I'm here.
Over this next month, we invite you to set a spot at your table for these guests you met today. You can visit the link that I'll put in the chat or video description to make your own box, or use a special cup, bowl, or other container to remind you of their presence and set aside what you are willing to donate to support their work through UUSC. On March 13th, please visit the donation page on the UUSC website to make your contribution, or contact our treasurer, Jeff Gretton, to coordinate donation of your cash or check. Please now join us in our closing hymn, number 1064, Blue Boat Home.
Below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean. Still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now. Never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I've traveled, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all my kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Please join me in the extinguishing words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our heart until we are together again.
Thank you, Team 6, for leading this week's worship service and kicking off our participation in the Guest at Your Table program. We invite you all to stay for a virtual coffee hour. You will be able to unmute yourselves, and we will set up our breakup rooms in just a moment.
Break out, not break up.